We're going to have the interaction, I have to say, the lead campaigner when it comes to making sure that issues of the state as well as nationalism are brought to the fore. And you know that he's been a lone crusader when it comes to anti-corruption in Parliament. And the Member of Parliament for North Tongu is right here, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good morning, Roland. Good to see you.
And yesterday we did see you in your full regalia, all upright, and having all those organizations joining you for that protest. How did you get all of them to solidarize with your cause?
Well, let me say good morning to all our viewers, and let me express profound gratitude to the Ghanaian people. To be honest with you, the turnout was way beyond my expectation. I knew that Ghanaians were outraged, Ghanaians are furious about this whole transaction. You can tell from social media reports, you can tell from the views they express when you engage them as journalists, and what they tell us as members of parliament when they write to us or when we engage them. But it's not always that Ghanaians want to take the extra step to pour out on the streets, put everything aside, and risk it, and go all out in a demonstration. And I want to particularly salute the traditional authorities. It's rare. I have been holding demonstrations since my days as a student activist, as NUC's president. I haven't seen any demonstration where chiefs have not only given their blessings, but have participated. I want to particularly celebrate the head of the Wulome. I'm told he's called the La Ba Wuloma. Ni Yamu Obroni, the seventh of La, who led the charge, led all the chief priests of La and Gadangbe, poured libation, asked for the ancestors to bless us, and was with us throughout. And you know that, the revered traditions of these Wulome, they don't wear shoes. You know the traditions.
Yeah.
And
have to go barefoot.
The scorching sun, and they were not perturbed at all. I mean, what young people will be scared to do, this elderly, revered, traditional ruler, braved all of that and walked with us till the end and was with us when we presented a petition to the Deputy Chief of Staff who was sent by the President to receive our petition. I want to really celebrate him and celebrate our traditional leaders. It is rare. It tells us that we still have great leaders, the likes of the great King Taki Tewia. His descendants are still around, and I am totally inspired by what the traditional leaders of Gamashi and La did yesterday. I must also salute organized labor. I mean, they sent their reps to join us, led by the head of communications, Comrade Na, who was with us throughout, addressed thousands of protesters who had gathered in front of Labadi Beach Hotel. I also want to thank the Federation of Labor. I want to thank all the political parties who joined us, PNC, CPP, minority colleagues from the House. I also must commend the various youth associations, the coalition of La Youth Associations. They did not only issue a statement, but they joined us in the protest. Then there's a group called the United Gadangbe Caucus. They also joined us. So I want to celebrate all Ghanaians. And there are people who walked up to me and said, look, we just arrived from Wa. We have just arrived from Kumasi.
From all walks of life.
We just arrived from Sunyai. So all of them ought to be celebrated. And I thank all Ghanaians, the thousands of Ghanaians who showed up. It tells you that Ghanaians are still patriotic. Ghanaians are still concerned about how their state assets are protected. When they give us these state assets as political leaders to watch over them, they don't expect us to take them over, to loot them, to amass them onto ourselves. They rather want us to take good care of them and at the very least, increase those assets so that we can create more opportunities for
and as you know, because this has been a running story, there's been a lot of rebuttals coming from the other side of the political divide. And rightly, we have the Director of Communications for the ruling party, Richard Ahiagwa, who straight away over the course of the subsequent hours had been posting that there's no question, as it may, of conflict of interest in this situation, as you seem to be painting, and that onwardly there's even been a petition before Shraj. So deal with that conflict of interest situation. How does the Agric Minister find himself in that situation?
So Article 284 of our Constitution is very clear that public officials should not put themselves in a position where their private interest conflicts with their public office. When you are in government, remember that this deal started in 2018. I refer you to the 19th May 2024 statement by SNIT. SNIT itself, not me saying, SNIT itself said that they started this transaction in 2018. 2018, the Honorable Bribery and Shady was a Minister of State in President Akufo-Addo's first term. He was a minister. And we know that after 2020, he was not appointed initially. But even then, he was still a member of parliament. Read Article 78, read Article 98 of our Constitution. When you're a member of parliament, when you're a minister of state, it is because of conflict of interest that the Constitution mandates that you ought to secure a certificate from the Speaker after you have applied to the committee of members holding profit for your business transactions to be assessed, that what you are doing does not amount to conflict of interest. Before, you will be cleared and the Speaker will give you a certificate. I have gone through the list diligently, applied to the clerk of the committee. Only 47 MPs and ministers have applied. The Honorable Bribery and Shady did not apply. So he's breached Article 78, he's breached Article 98. Then if you look at Article 284, he was minister when this transaction began, according to SNIT in 2018. Then he has been reappointed as minister about a year ago. Remember that this deal is at the final stages, about to be completed. Indeed, they were just about to sign off and seal the deal, consummate. And then I stepped in and had to blow the alarm and file this Shraj petition. So it is clear that Articles 284, 78, 98 have all been breached violently and blatant. And you see, fundamentally, I have always said that it is not right for public officials. And remember 16 years ago, I didn't start, people are making it look as though I have something against the Honorable Bribery and Shady. This will be the same position if it was anybody, even a member from my party. I have consistently said that public officials should not participate in the sale of and purchase of state assets. 16 years ago, I took on the Honorable Jacob Echebilamte. I went all the way to the Supreme Court. So what I'm doing is not new. I've been very consistent.
Because there's been swift responses that have said that, of course, following the establishment of the Divestiture Implementation Committee, there have been assigns and even past officials of the NDC, past administrations, who have also, whether rightly or not, gone through processes and acquired state assets. And so that is a counter-rebuttal to your current position.
So, you see, we need, as a country, to eschew politicians who, in opposition, condemn certain things, say that they will do differently, and seek our mandate, only to come and do worse.
How do you mean?
It's never happened in our history where ministers of state have bought state assets. All those examples...
You mean while in office?
While in office. All those examples they will give you. They'll give you some remote person, somebody who may have had a party card or who is known to be associated. So it tells you that the state capture is getting worse. And I ask myself as a young person, is this the kind of politics I want to be engaged in? Is this the kind of country I want us to build, where people in opposition, and at the time, what did they say? Even though they were not ministers, they were not in cabinet, they were not high-ranking politicians, what did they say? That is why in our petition, we stated that, look, this sale of state assets have been going on since 24 February 1966, when Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown. You find out that at the end of the day, the people who are buying these state assets are either politically exposed or linked to the politicians. It tells you that, what they tell you that, oh, this is not profitable, it's not good, it's not worth it, it's a drain on all of us. And yet, the people telling us that it's not good for all of us, suddenly it becomes good for them. They go behind the scenes to buy it. And it's become so brazen. I mean, have you heard this anywhere? Politicians directly buying state assets. Which country will accept this?
Mr. Okudzeto,
Will tolerate this?
Let me play this scenario out for you.
Yeah.
Because there are key considerations. If you own a company, you're a shareholder or a director of a company, and as you know, whether you participate in the daily administration or management of the company, once you're a shareholder, you still have an interest. And so Brian Achampong says, yes, I'm a director of this or a shareholder of this company, but I don't play any meaningful role by way of the meaning of managing the day-to-day affairs of the company. More so, all powers of any executive director, I have made a subservient to another or an assigned. That is a good argument because he occupies the position of a minister of state and a member of parliament.
That is all hogwash. It's balderdash.
Hogwash?
Total balderdash.
Balderdash?
Yes. I hold in my hands here the incorporation articles of Rock City Hotel Group of Companies Limited. There are only 2 directors here. I'll share it with you. Brian Achampong and Rosemary Clottey. So those people who are out there say, oh, he's not even a director. He's not a director. Under our company laws, you need 2 directors to hold a board of directors meeting, at least 2. So if he doesn't participate, there is no meeting. He is a director. He has not relinquished his interest in the company. In addition to that, these articles of incorporation reveal that he is the sole shareholder. And even worse, he is the sole beneficial owner. Take a look at it.
By way of the shareholdership.
Yes. He's a sole beneficial owner. So anytime Rock City makes profit, it's all going to him. Sole beneficial owner. He stands to benefit, to gain from this transaction. Then you see, this claim that he made, very deceptive claim that, you know, oh, I'm not involved, it's a Rock City, it's another entity, I'm not in the day-to-day administration, I'm not even supervising this deal. Are you aware that the revered chiefs of the Edina Traditional Council have exposed him? Let me read this letter to you. This is a letter signed by Nana Kojo Kondua VI, the Omanhene, the respected Omanhene, the venerable Omanhene of Edina Traditional Area. A petition to the Chief of Staff. And he writes, settlement of Golden Beach Resort, land at Elmina. It has come to the notice of the Edina Traditional Council that the Golden Beach Resort, Elmina, has been offered for sale. This came to attention when Honorable Brian Achampong, Member of Parliament for Abetifi constituency, visited the site with the investors. Our main concern is that the land on which the resort is situated is the property of the Edina Traditional Council. We are therefore calling your attention so that we all could solve the matter amicably. Yours faithfully, signed Nana Kojo Kondua VI. This is Nana Kojo Kondua, the prominent paramount chief of the Edina Traditional Council, saying that he saw the Honorable Brian Achampong. He came to the hotel, Elmina Beach, with investors, carrying out their final checks. So where from this claim that I'm not involved, I'm so removed, and it is some other people at Rock City, they probably didn't even consult me as the sole beneficial owner, as director, as sole shareholder. I'm so removed. I'm somewhere focusing on food prices, which really is not working. Food prices have gone through the roof, so clearly he can't tell us he's focusing on that. So are you telling us that the chiefs of the Edina Traditional Council, who see him on a daily basis and have petitioned the chief of staff and the president that they want to be consulted, they offered their land virtually for free without compensation because they were excited that the state was coming to put up a hotel and they will get jobs for their young people. And that if you are now going to privatize it, then let's sit down and let's give you the commercial rate of Elmina.
But he's your colleague in Parliament. When you were about to embark on this crusade, of course, albeit for the national interest, did you try to make some inquisitions from him as to what you've found out so far before starting this whole crusade?
You see, in the course of my work, I rely on facts. I rely on what the documents are. I rely on what the real issues are. I try as much as possible to do away with friendship, with colleagues and cronyism. There are even others who have said, and he himself said that on another station, that he thought that as Odadies, when we meet at old boys meetings, we could have discussed these matters. But that's not how I understand my mandate as an MP under the Constitution. Our duty is to carry out oversight, to make sure there are checks and balances. That's our duty. And we take an oath to do it without fear or favor, without partiality. It's not about, oh, you're my friend, or we went to the same school. It's not about that. So once this matter is a red flag, it violates principles that I hold dear. And for almost 2 decades, I have been saying that, look, these state assets that are being sold to politicians, let's stop it. And that is why, as I speak to you, I'm sponsoring a private member's bill. And I want to salute Professor Kwekuaza, who is helping us with a team of lawyers, so that, you see, those politicians taking advantage of gray areas, oh, I'm non-executive, oh, I didn't go to work last week, it's not really my company.
What's the bill about?
And all of that. We are saying that politicians and politically exposed persons, so our spouses, our children, you've heard what the Freddie Blay sons have done. So Labadi Beach Hotel has become the only beach hotel in the world without a beach. They should be changing their name, Labadi Beach Hotel. And yet, because of the state capture going on, the rampant state capture, people other than Labadi Beach Hotel say that they now own the beachfront of Labadi Beach Hotel. So we are saying that all politicians, all politically exposed persons should be banned. We want an express law, very clear and precise. They should not go anywhere near the purchase of state assets. They shouldn't be part of the transaction.
Not at all, even if they are out of office?
Even if they are out of office. Once you're a politician, even if you're a member of parliament, you are not a minister. Let's be very clear. Because best practice elsewhere, that's what is going on. And look, once we do that, you'll see that a lot of these sales going on, these rampant sales, will stop. Because pierce the veil always, and you see the interest, you see who is behind it. Look, are you aware that since I started this campaign, the number of public servants who have called me, are you aware that the Parks and Gardens land has been sold? They have called me that they went to work one day and they were told that some people showed up, they are the new owners. Prisons, go to prisons near the Osu runabout, the barracks.
Johnny Hughes has been doing exposés on them.
They have given them up to July to all vacate, that they've sold it to private developers. Go to airport, all the way to DVLA and all of that. All of that tracts of land, huge tracts of land, that whole swath of land is all gone. So the impunity. Look, there are doctors, Ridge Hospital and others, who are telling us that their bungalows have been sold. They now have to go and live far away. If there's an emergency, how do they help us? How do they cope? There are chief directors, judges. They get letters. You have 2 weeks to move. We have sold.
They came to complain to you?
Yes. We have sold the land. Move. You have 2 weeks. And we will rent for you 1 year. And just go around. Look, and to think that colonialists, who we always condemn, and I join in that condemnation, that they came here to loot, to rape, and to just plunder. Even they, when they were putting up ministries, they knew that civil servants must live close to the ministries, and carved out land at Labone, cantonments, Rich, to make sure that there's good proximity. People who are working in the ministries, so that you can go to work conveniently. If there's an emergency, there's a national emergency and an urgent situation, you can get to work early. You can be called at any point in time. All of that land is gone, and we are pushing everybody far away. Civil servants, chief directors have to now be coming from work from Kaswa, Gomoa, and other places. Why? Why are we doing that? So there's a bigger issue of how state assets are being plundered, are being raped, are being pilfered. And it cannot be allowed to continue. What country are we building? How would the next generation see us? The state capture must stop. And that is what this crusade is about. And that is why thousands of Ghanaians are pouring onto the streets. And President Akufo-Addo should comply with our petition. He has no choice. Look, in the next few days, if we don't hear from President Akufo-Addo that he is stopping this sale, He has the authority. He has the power. His appointees who are selling as SNIT are his people. He appointed them. He has power over them. Those buying are his people. He has power over them. He should tell them to back off and keep these state assets for all of us, for Ghanaian workers. If it is good for Bribery Champo, it can be good for all Ghanaians. He should not hesitate. Look, already I can confirm to you that we have received formal invitations from the chiefs and people of the central region. They say that they are impressed with what the Ghana chiefs have done here. They want their own showdown.
So what, you're going to convene the same demonstration in the central region?
If in the next few days we don't hear clearly from President Akufo-Addo that he's stopping this transaction, our next action will be in the central region. We will heed the calls we are receiving from the chiefs and people of the central region that they want Elmina Beach Hotel protected. Already, Edina Traditional Council, or Manhini Kojo Kondia, has written formally to protest against the sale. The people of Cape Coast, Ogwa, who are complaining about the takeover of Ridge Royal, we are saying that we will embark on probably a much bigger demo than what we have done in Accra if the president does not step in to make sure that these hotels are not sold. I thought that after our petition to Shraj, the president would have called his people to order, but rather documents we intercepted. They were going ahead, trying to finalize the deal. Despite the Shraj,
well, someone who says
despite the Shraj
it's an independent institution, and the company Rock City itself also has that right by way
there's
of...
nothing independent about SNIT. Okay. There's nothing independent about SNIT. So, the president appoints them.
By way of their composition, you say.
They are a state institution. Majority of the board, which really even has to change. We have to change the SNIT law. Majority should be organized labor reps. We must also make sure that if the president is appointing the CEO for proper checks and balance, at least Labour should appoint the board chair. This situation where presidents appoint the board chair, majority on the board,
that should
and the
change.
CEO
we'll come that.
Has to
now,
change.
Now, let's get a recall of Bribery and Shady. It's not very often he's spoken on this matter. And then I'll come back and get a response from Okudzeto Ablakwa on what his position is on this whole brouhaha.
Get the agreement between the two of them, okay? And it is only when they are not able to fulfill that arrangement is when they can come back to their now new buyer and say that, okay, we now can go ahead with the deal. So that is what the transaction is. Nothing has been infringed. The way I have been briefed and the way it has been presented, nothing has been breached. They have written to them. And if they want to take it and they take it, there will be no deal. So if the private sector person has been offered at $3 million and accepted, and which is for every 25% share is equivalent to $1 million, and SNIT is also offered the same $1 million, wherein lies the shortchanging. So the fact that you have a value of an item at 8.4, and you go into negotiations and achieve 7.4, because the benchmark on the market is really what the private sector person has offered, at least at the bare minimum. Wherein lies the strong words of shady meetings, bizarre preferential treatment, and unholy alliance. Sammy, knowing this, will you still use these words?
Let me read from page 2 of the intercepted meeting.
So it will not be surprising if this goes through. He still is insisting that as far as he is related, it's an independent company or an entity that is incorporated within our laws doing legal business. And they made an offer. The offer has been accepted. What's the problem with that?
Quite shocking, isn't it? That despite the uproar, despite the upheaval that this transaction has generated, the Honorable Greek Minister still held bent and is publicly defending this deal. And don't you see the irony? He says he's not really part of this transaction, he's not involved directly, he doesn't do day-to-day. And yet, he's the only one defending this deal all over the place. Where are the actual people he says are the ones going ahead with this transaction, doing the negotiations and all of that? Have you heard any of them? He is Rock City and Rock City is him. So this is a clear confirmation. Look, this deal is bad. It stings to the high heavens. Are you aware that even the procurement laws of our country were breached? What they set out to do is not what they did. They said they were going to divest 60% from 6 hotels. They allowed Rock City to choose 4 of the juiciest. He says he doesn't like Busia, he doesn't like Trust Lodge, and that is out. As soon as you do that, and organized labor has made this in their 20th May statement they read out to the press. They've made this point, that they ought to have started afresh because that disadvantaged other bidders in the process. So there was no regard for our procurement laws. Then we are also raising issues with value for money. There is no value for money. And in this interview, I confronted him with that unholy alliance, the track record he has. When he was purchasing 25% of SNIT shares in Grand Regency in Kumasi, what was known as Kumasi Catering Guest House, the valuation put the value of the 25% shares at 8.6 million. He paid far less, 7.4 million, and even that on installment basis. Many analysts call it a work and pay arrangement.
He says there's nothing wrong with that.
There's everything wrong with it. Look, these are our shares. It's for Ghanaian workers. We must get value for money. Then if you will not respect the valuation, why do we spend money to do valuation? Are you aware that this transaction, this sale of hotels, already we have paid $491,000 to a transaction advisor. $500,000, over 7 million Ghana cedis. If you know you will not listen to the transaction advisors, you won't respect the evaluation. Why should we spend so much money to engage them if we are not going to respect the valuation? Are you aware that the 4 hotels, the transaction advisors, the valuation report, copies of which I have, are clear that the valuation of the 4 hotels should be $121 million. Rock City is offering only $61 million. I mean, so even in terms of value for money, we don't have any value for money. Take La Palm Royal. The valuation report says that it should go for $47 million. The Honorable Brian Champon's Rock City is offering $31 million. Way below the valuation. Take Elmina. Elmina Beach's valuation is that at least bare minimum, the floor price should be $7 million. He's offering $2 million. So even in terms of value for money, we are not getting value for money. So no matter how you look at it, constitutional provisions, procurement laws, value for money, I mean, good corporate governance. Look at the arm twisting that went on. It had to take the minority shareholders at Ridge Royal to get their lawyers to protest that, look, under the 1st April 1999 shareholders agreement, you ought to have engaged us before going ahead to sell this hotel. So whichever way you look at it, this deal cannot be in the national interest. Everything stinks about it. It's horrible.
And you say you give the president an ultimatum?
Yes, he has a few days.
You give the president an ultimatum?
These are our assets. These are hotels. I mean, sovereignty under our constitution resides in the people. The president himself, he knows, he understands the importance of demonstrations. When people take time off all the things that they do to eke a living, and they spend the whole day on the streets. The president himself, he's led demonstrations. And one of his demonstrations, Komi Preku, led to President Rawlings. The man, he says that he wasn't a Democrat like he is. President Rawlings listened and suspended VAT after an Akufo-Addo-led demonstration. So President Akufo-Addo has no choice. If even a military ruler who later on converted and became a democratic leader listened to the people, thousands have poured onto the streets. The president must listen. He must suspend this deal. He must totally abort this deal. Look, all the other hotels that appear to be struggling now, it's a management issue. If you appoint the right people, look at the story of Labadi. When Labadi was making losses about 15, 16 years ago, and we then appointed a management company, Liberty, from South Africa, and they came in, and we said the locals should understudy them. That is a globally, renowned hotel management chain. So they came, managed it for 10 years. It became profitable. In the process, they had also transferred knowledge, expertise, and the locals took over. Do you know when the locals took over? Ghanaians took over Labadi Beach. They are even now making more profit. Last year, Labadi Beach Hotel made profit of 158 million when Rock City was making losses. Labadi Beach Hotel made 158 million. They are paying dividend 25 million. So let's adopt this model. Instead of selling, don't throw the baby away with the bathwater. Allow new management to come in, and you see how they'll turn the fortunes of the few struggling hotels around.
Has Shraj invited you formally?
Yes, Shraj has written formally. They have told us that they have commenced the investigations. They've asked me to stand by, that they may be inviting me any of these days. Have indicated that I am ever ready. Anytime I'm called, we've also intercepted more documents, so I'm working currently on an addendum to the petition, which will be submitted to Shraj in the next few days. So we are cooperating. We're also working on the private members bill. We have also filed a number of questions and motions in Parliament to also demand accountability on this obnoxious transaction.
As we end, if there's one message you'd want to give to SNIT in lieu of all that has happened and is happening, what would that be?
Hands off our hotels. If SNIT truly is concerned about investments that are not doing well, according to the SIGA report, SNIT's worst investment is at STC, where they have 80% shares. Nana Komia's STC, on a consistent basis, has been making losses of 32 million cedis on the average. Last year, they made losses of 54 million cedis.
What's your point?
The point is that if truly, as SNIT is claiming that they are worried about loss-making investments, they should have started at STC. Why is it that nobody in cabinet, nobody in government is interested in STC? Because the losses are so huge, there's no profitability on the horizon. They don't see money to be made. So they are not interested in STC. So STC, we have said one of our demands is that whole board there must be dissolved. They clearly are not working in our interest. How can Labour ask you to stop and you don't stop? Labour is protesting. You are not, as SNIT, working with your own money. You are working with money from workers' contributions. And we are talking about people's lives, people's pensions. And SNIT has been so unresponsive. I'm really disappointed in the Elizabeth Ohini-led board. The lack of responsiveness, the stonewalling, refusing to listen to organized labor, to listen to the Parliament of Ghana. So that board should be dissolved. And look, all of those, deceptive statements they are making, they should stop them. Because now we have all the documents, and we are even more convinced that this deal is not in the national interest. It stinks to the high heavens, and the earlier they just back out of it, the better for all of us.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for passing through. And you're again threatening that if you don't hear anything,
yes, Central Region. Yes, because the chiefs and youth groups have called us. And we'll be going.
How are your constituents doing now, especially following the Akosombo Dam spilling?
Well, we did the best for them, and we continue to help those who are displaced, whose houses were totally destroyed. We're waiting for government to start construction. We have finished 2 houses for them. A few remain in tents. When I say a few, it's relative. We're talking about hundreds who are still in tents. If you go to the Degoma area in Mapa, yes, still displaced. So recently, I've had to move out of the tents. The senior citizens, I've rented places for them in the constituency, so that because the rains are upon us and the tents are not built for the rainy season. So at least all senior citizens have been moved out. I've rented accommodation for them. So we're doing our best with the response, but we are waiting for government to start construction and then to come and compensate, and I mean, it is so disheartening that after all these months, it's more than 7 months, and the president has not compensated a single individual who lost.
So no compensation?
No compensation. That is why I have said that we'll be going to court. I've actually asked the lawyers to start work so that all of them can bring a class action, because it looks like if we don't compel government to wake up to its obligations, they will not act. So that's what is really going to happen, so that the courts will compel the president to carry out his obligations, and also compel VRA to make sure that they clean up their mess.
All right. Thank you for passing through the studios this morning. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa is the lead convener of that demonstration, Hands Off Our Hotels demonstration, and 3 News, TV3 Ghana, as well as across all our platforms. We cover this live extensively as well. We'll be touching base with him consistently alongside government as well, SNIT on the other hand, organized labor, who are also part of this as well, with Nayeli Adeifio speaking for them and representing them on the ground. But in the meantime, you get an upload of this interaction on TV3 Ghana across all social media platforms. Please share, also make your comments known as well on this.